Welcome again to Her God, a program for women, by women, and about women's issues. But I have to say inspired by God, because God cares about you, women, and all of the troubles you may be facing. Today's topic is alcoholism. We're going to take up the topic again with our guest, Dr. Cynthia Felix, who lives in Cochin with her husband. And again, we are welcoming Bindu Joseph, who is the social worker at the De-Addiction Center here at Divine and lives with her husband in Korati. So we thank you very much for joining us again. And we're going to pick up where we left off last time, and that is we were talking about, for alcoholism, one of the programs of recovery which is very effective and worldwide is called Alcoholics Anonymous, AA. And we want to ask Bindu, for those who are needing to find AA meetings, support group, where can they go, or how can they find a meeting in their town?
Actually, it is everywhere. Every de-addiction centers are working with this Alcoholic Anonymous in every town. We could get it in the internet also. And Alcoholic Anonymous spread all over in world. I think it's 92 countries are this alcoholic, and a lot of people getting help from this Alcoholic Anonymous.
And in the United States, I know they even have meetings in the churches, different churches, or you can go on the internet and look up Alcoholics Anonymous and put your particular town.
Yeah, yes. Once the treatment is over, the most important challenge for an alcoholic is to maintain the sobriety. How to maintain. So Alcoholic Anonymous is a meeting really helps person. So 1 or 2 persons or minimum 3, or there is no limited number or there is no maximum number. When a couple of people desires to quit alcohol, and then they could form the Alcoholic Anonymous meeting. And there is this meeting is conducted in 2 ways, like it's a closed meeting and the open meeting. So closed meeting means only the people who was addicted to alcohol are only the members. Then this is a closed meeting. They are attending the meeting, so that is the closed meeting. And when it comes to the open meeting, the family members as well as the professional and the public people also attending the meeting. That is the open meeting.
Open meeting and closed meeting.
Yeah. Closed meeting and open. In our center, Divine De-Addiction Center, we conduct the closed meeting every Saturday 10 a.m. and the open meeting on every second Saturday 10 a.m. Okay. So we have got the active Alcoholic Anonymous group is working there. That's what I am saying. Saying that every De-Addiction Center is working with the AA meeting. So if somebody needs the help from AMT, they could find it in the associated with this Alcoholic De-Addiction Centers.
And so I think what's so beautiful is that it's being done through Divine. This ministry of de-addiction, because so many alcoholics were coming on the retreats.
Yeah, actually, how this center begins is in the past, a lot of people coming to attend a retreat to save from the problems of alcoholism. So there is a lot of people got help, but in the due course, people faced the withdrawal symptoms. So withdrawal symptoms
during the retreat.
They faced the withdrawal symptoms, and then they need as it's the withdrawal symptoms, the medical emergency. So they need the medical treatment and the medical help. So that is why that was the main reason this De-Addiction Center started, and it was near the retreat center first. Now it's moved to the Shantipuram.
So it's really a soul-saving kind of work. You see people. You were telling me before that you were seeing spouses reunited.
Yes, a lot of people, because alcoholism is a family disease actually. It is not a medical condition just as only one person is not suffering. Not only the whole family is affected, and especially the spouse, the children, all are affecting the effects of experiencing or suffering due to somebody is one single person, one single family member is addicted to alcohol. The whole family is suffering. Really suffering. So I think it's a family disease, and Divine De-Addiction Center doing a lot of good works. Really saving the families, saving the souls, because when any person admitted to the De-Addiction Center, because it was the last stage, because family members see this, came there as a last resort. Most of the cases, wife separates, leave separates, children are already, had problems. So really we help them to reconstruct their life, reunite them.
And Bindu, the interesting part is that people know about Porta Divine Ministry for many years in Kerala. Porta has been almost synonymous with giving help to alcoholics. Even when I was a kid growing up, I remember, people who are alcoholics being recommended to go to Porta. And one of the critical things we have to remember is the touch of Jesus, that, you need the grace of Jesus to really quit the habit. And that is a blessing that a Christian has, that Jesus is available to help. And people from all religions, Christianity again is not a religion, but a personal journey with Jesus. Just to add to your point about the broken families, I also wanted to mention the common person or the lay public in Kerala. How many of them would know about AA, or should we have more not advertisements, I would say, but awareness creation about the other options, if any? I just wanted to raise the other options.
The addiction centers being an option, and hospitals?
Hospital, yes. Because that is a very bad thing, because many of the people doesn't know that there is a self-help group like AA is working. Because when people hear about this Alcoholic Anonymous, they think that it's just a Western thing. We haven't got it here, and it won't help. It doesn't help a person, but it actually helps. Once they are free from the physical dependence, and then when they need psychological support and emotional support, this AA really works. And so
it's a peer support group. Basically, it's very simple, but it's so effective because people really take care of each other. And so I think if you contacted a de-addiction center in your locality or a hospital, they would probably, in Kerala or in a wider India, they might be able to best guide you to where there could be a meeting. So
even the numbers, I'm just thinking the sheer number of alcoholics, and especially people coming from villages, the system, some of them may not be open to this group discussion because, there is a stigma still attached to the whole.
Initial times there will be problems for sharing, there is a stigma, so people will think that, okay, I don't want to share my problems, it's just with me, I don't want to. But in the course, when they see that others are sharing, and when they are getting that is the positive, positive stroke, they take it as a positive stroke, and then they are also starting sharing, and it really works. And just like Alcoholic Anonymous for alcoholics, we have got Al-Anon for the family members. Okay, Al-Anon for the family members. That is for the spouses as well as for the children. So they have got the same like that. They have got the meetings, the 12 steps. So when they need help, as well as emotional support, moral support, these spouses, especially the wives and children will get help from the Al-Anon. We in the Addiction Center, we also have got this Al-Anon group actively working, meeting also actively. Every Wednesday, we have got the Al-Anon group meeting in Divine Addiction Center.
So this is where we want to kind of take the program for the rest of the time, is to talk about, now the alcoholic has treatment, but the family also needs treatment. So one means of treatment is this Al-Anon group, which is another sharing peer support group. But let's discuss, maybe Dr. Cynthia can open this up, of how is the rest of the family affected by this bizarre behavior of the alcoholic?
Yeah. Well, myself, I would like to talk from a more subjective standpoint, in fact, because I grew up as the child of an alcoholic myself, and he was a very severe alcoholic. Essentially, he even now needs, he's on the older side, but still needs 24-hour supervision to make sure he doesn't drink, because even a single drop of drink would essentially make him die. He's that sick now. But the significant impact it has on the family could vary. It varies within the culture of Kerala, because it would again depend on the extended family support system that you have or you do not have. But that being said, the children essentially are deprived of their childhood period. That's and the spouse of a normal marriage.
So maybe we can
And-
define that. How is a child deprived of their childhood by the behavior of an alcoholic? I think it's important for us to talk about that.
Yeah,
So-
sure. As she was mentioning earlier, the whole family system get fractured or scattered, so to speak. This is a big, so to speak, the elephant in the room, they call it, the alcoholism of the father or the husband. And people, instead of fighting it or addressing it, they try to solve it in their own ways. And I, came to know all of this through my own research because I wanted to find out what was happening to me, because I always grew up thinking that there was something different. The word is different. And I didn't know what it was until I did research and found out about the adult children of alcoholic. And all that. Nowadays, I think the last 10 years or so in India, we have more information. It was not in earlier days. So essentially, when there is, the family is a unit, as we know, and when one person is out of place, the whole system fractures, and the mother perhaps takes on the role of the father.
Yes.
And the children, if it's too much for the mother, the children would be sent to other relatives. So they grow up essentially not getting the love of the father and the mother, even when both of them are alive.
And
So
coping with the behaviors of the alcoholic, coming home
Yes.
drunk, coming home violent. So now this family now has a crisis,
Yes.
So the children have to hide in their rooms. The mother has to try
Yeah.
to fend for herself. So if this is happening every single day, this is
Yes,
where the loss
and-
of the childhood
Yeah,
comes.
and then it's actually called chronic PTSD, and not many, people hardly recognize it.
PTSD
even
is?
chronic post-traumatic stress
Disorder.
PTSD disorder, yes. So often this is not diagnosed, especially in children, because children may present with behavioral problems or milder issues early on, which then they would just pass off as, oh, he's a kid growing up, or there isn't much of a child
not very
psychiatric or
smart
psychological
or
help.
something.
Yeah, and if they're doing good at this, is often the mistake that they make. For instance, myself and my sister, we are two girls, we used to do well in school. So we were good students. In fact, we are trying to compensate for what we are losing out in society because of dad's behavior. But then since we are doing good at school in terms of our studies, we are considered okay. But then the broken emotional part comes up once you become an adolescent or an adult. But in some ways, you are, for a long period of time, I used to think of myself as a victim until I volunteered myself to get the help that's needed through the awareness that I got, and started thinking that I can take control of my life. But that period, you're losing not just the childhood, but also the transition years, the adolescent years, wherein you'll have your father and your mother to guide you. In this case, when both parents are alive, you still don't get that the help of that parenting to help you transition even through the adolescent years.
So the mother is absorbed by the behavior of the
Yes,
spouse.
and consumed. She
Consumed.
may have to take up roles that are not normally hers. For instance, taking care of the finances of the family and doing jobs, extra jobs, and doing all the social activities that usually men are supposed to do. The caregiver, the primary provider role, in fact.
And I have seen children, because they feel embarrassed and ashamed of their father's behavior. So it causes a kind of social withdrawal also. Okay, that's because this alcoholic is unpredictable. His behavior in society is most of the time is unpredictable. So in occasions like marriage or in functions, maybe he will make a mess, and these children are feel embarrassed and ashamed. Also, the next time they won't go. So it causes a kind of social withdrawal.
So this is where the family will stay home instead of going to church, or stay home
Yes,
instead of going.
Yes, exactly. And this behavior of the alcoholics induces a kind of psychological problems, as Dr. Sindhya mentioned, in wives also. Psychological problems, and in alcoholism itself, it causes psychosis, induced psychosis like paranoid ideas, delusions of infidelity, and in some cases what happens is one alcoholic has got this delusional disorder or delusions of infidelity, and the society won't understand it. So Okay, and that is also the wife is also suffering, because what I'm saying is that as are the part of the induced psychosis, the alcoholic will started suspecting his wife. That is an illness, and the society and even the children won't understand that it is a kind of illness. So that's a lot of, I have seen a lot of wives suffering with this kind of problems.
And also, I think I want to introduce a couple of terms which people hesitate to say. Essentially, this is emotional abuse. This is verbal abuse, because the children didn't ask for it. But you're forced into a situation where you are facing a violent, constant, aggressive behavior that is traumatizing you.
Out of control. Really.
Yeah, out of
They're
control and unpredictable. There is no structure. There is no planned activities, or there is social isolation, as you said. Not just the family not going out. Others also hesitate to visit the family because of the alcoholic's behavior. So the wife and children, for no fault of theirs, are facing social isolation. So the word abuse, it occurs in all different dimensions of their life. And also, many times, this is not brought up much in Kerala, but I have social workers who mention that there are a lot of children who face sexual abuse from alcoholic fathers, and all because of their behavior, others would have free access to the home. Because they are drunk and passed out, they may face abuse from protect the wife and children.
And then if they're inebriated and they're out of control, sexual urges are out of control, whether it's your child or something else, you see.
And if you also look at the crime data, a lot of murders and rapes, people are often drunk or under the influence of a substance. So it goes without saying the criminal activities that the mind gets prone to. So imagine the amount of crime that this family is facing every day. Often unspoken of. Within Kerala circles, people don't want to embarrass themselves. So it's not much spoken about, even the women especially. We mention all these groups, but the common, the lay public, the average woman, where would she vent this out to? There is a social name, and Kerala is big on the social or the family name. Other than isolating such a family, how do they talk to their neighbor? I mean, in fact, many people would look down upon the woman who talks out about the issues that she's facing. So who does she?
I think she probably they go to confession and talk to the priest. I mean, that's a safe place to talk about the secret problems and the secret sins of the family, and that's definitely encouraged because that's a sacrament. It can bring you strength and healing, but that's also the strength of these 12-step, these AA and Al-Anon groups. That's so powerful. Is that they're not silenced anymore. You see, even the alcoholic can talk about their problem or their difficulties, and they're not alone, isolated anymore. They have other people who have the same problem. So that in itself, as far as psychological help, is a huge, great gift. And the Al-Anon too, the women and the children, if they have their own group, which talks about what it's like to live with dad. That, I mean, have you found that it helps them?
Yeah, really.
It does help in your experience,
Well, to me, in fact, when I was a kid, like I was saying, this probably within India, it happened probably within the last, when did yours start, the Al-Anon meetings here?
I think 2 years back.
Yeah, so it's just 1.5 years back. It's just 1.5 years
so
back.
in the United States, it's maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to say is this help started just 1.5 years back. So probably that's also, I mean, when I was a kid, I mean, there were none of these resources. People, in fact, didn't even recognize the emotional scarring it has on a child until the child grows up and then has emotional issues. Or I grew up, and as an adult, I was very sensitive, and I found it difficult to cope with the world. To the external world, on a professional level, it was okay because God gave me the intelligence to study well. But that doesn't mean that, my mind was hurt because of all the abuse, the verbal and physical aggression that the child sees all the time. So what I'm trying to say is, within Kerala, and for that reason, I just wanted to read this name because this helped me a lot. It's called the Complete ACOA Source Book, Adult Children of Alcoholics. It's by Janet Avoid-Teets.
So ACOA is Adult Children of Alcoholics. It's kind of it was a very common term in the United States for like the last 20 years.
Yeah.
But it's something new for people to realize that if they grew up in an alcoholic family, that their childhood was affected and certain behaviors, I think we just talked about this before in another program, their behaviors and their thinking is affected by living with that bizarre childhood. And also the propensity that they might have to inherit this disease.
Yes, and that's a big risk because someone needs to break this cycle. This probably, the current alcoholic, let's imagine the father or the husband of the house, he's blaming it on his parents. Maybe they had a psychiatric illness or they abandoned him, whatever reason he has, he went into alcoholism. He probably will have, this has a genetic basis. It has both genetic and environmental components. So his child, especially if they're sons in Kerala, the son would have a higher likelihood than another child of his same age to go into becoming an alcoholic himself.
So genetically?
There is a genetic and environmental, because he's growing up in this environment where he's exposed to alcohol all the time, and alcohol is accepted as a norm. In some ways, the women can be what they call enablers or the codependent person. We won't go into too much of it today, but essentially is someone who doesn't proactively stop this big issue, which is the alcoholism. You know, she tries to protect the husband's job or tries to protect the children.
Usually that is the initial stage.
Yeah.
The initial stage, usually the wives will try to protect their husband. But then second stage, there is a denial. There won't be a problem. Okay. Third stage, they will ask for this help.
Yeah.
Because maybe that stage, he became the addicted actually.
I think that's very important to repeat that. First, the wives are covering it up. Oh, no, he wasn't drunk last night. No, everything was fine. And then they go into a denial.
Because, for example, if he is, he had a hangover, maybe wife might say that, oh, he's sick. So
Calling
he can't
on the
job.
phone.
Yeah,
He's sick.
he's sick. So she will cover him. So.
Yeah, and also talking about the children, one thing that helped me within Kerala, I will tell you that, is the divine meetings, the 1 week retreats that they have, wherein the priests were talking about how the child, even within the mother's womb, can get affected. So we talked about the genetic influence and the environment. Both of that is there when the child is even developing within the mother's womb. And if the fathers come drunk, I mean, the child is facing the shivers even within the mother's womb. And how the different developmental stages of the child are affected, that awareness and how Jesus can touch those different stages. That is the help that I got from the divine retreats, and I'm so grateful and thankful to God for that.
Yeah, that's a beautiful recommendation to the retreat, because there's a whole day and evening just designated for inner healing, where we do believe Jesus actually comes and heals those emotional scars, But there's also, it's good for families to know that in this turmoil, they need to get help. They need to go to the de-addiction centers. They need to get help. Their children are also not learning coping skills needed for life, how to form normal relationships, right? How to deal with anger.
And what is normal to begin with?
See,
how
there's
do you know
nothing,
what's
so if a
normal?
child learns there's no normal, then how are they going to start a family? And having, that's a pain and a suffering too.
So someone needs to, that's what I was trying to say, someone needs to take that initiative. And in my family, I have decided, this is going to be it. I don't want to make, keep making excuses and, trying to carry on the psychological burden any further, because especially if it's a boy, that boy, this generation boy has to say, even if my father's an alcoholic, I'm not going to use that as an excuse to keep making socially inappropriate decisions. So someone needs to own up, and even if they have made mistakes, even if they have drunk or whatnot, Jesus can still carry you in his arms and give you the strength to go forward. But you need to cooperate. Someone needs to cooperate with Jesus and take initiative for that change. Otherwise, it's going to run through generations.
I think also helpful to the young person that doesn't want to have that kind of a lifestyle and doesn't want to, and wants to get help, is to read books like this. Adult Children of Alcoholics, AA, because I just heard that you can get all kinds of books here through Amazon and different companies, and so much online. You can learn about, a lot of times you'll start reading about this, what is an adult child of an alcoholic, what is the, start reading, recognize, that's my life, there it is, right? There's my life. So it did help you with that.
Yes, and that was the most freeing experience, because I didn't know, I knew something was different and I couldn't put the pieces together. And thank God I didn't have a psychological issue, because people could end up, ending up with a
Psychological
full-fledged
problems.
nervous breakdown, so to speak. But then putting the pieces together and recognizing why these things happened was then the stepping stone towards that healing process. And it's a process, it takes time, and it needs your commitment. But if you're committed, it's possible. So that's the encouraging part I wanted to share.
I'd even say that teachers and pastors, sisters, religious sisters out in the community doing pastoral work, teachers especially, if you know that this family is going through this, what are the steps to help save that child? What are some steps that can be taken to bring attention to helping that family with that very serious problem? Do you know the success? How successful are the people that come out of the de-addiction center? Are they able to maintain?
Yes.
Or about a percentage, half of them? Or?
Yeah, 7 out of 10 stays away from alcohol for next to 1 year, because we did a follow-up for the next 1 year, and 7 out of 10 stays away from alcohol. That is a success rate. And when the support of the family is also very important. And we said that the family is suffering a lot. At the same time, recovering family it's a family disease, and the family support is very important for the recovering addict. If the family is not able to support him, because we call it a dry drink syndrome, the first initial couple of months for when he started to keep away this alcohol, it is a very crucial time for him. So the family, the family support as well as the environment, and it's very important.
Probably, and then you still have to commit yourself to your recovery. So
first, I wanted to mention from Galatians chapter 5 that drunkards, according to the word of God, do not inherit the kingdom of God. So this is not just a temporal, earthly thing we're talking about. It has eternal significance. And I want to finish my part by sharing from Isaiah 61, the encouraging part, which is, the Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives, and release from darkness for the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn. Essentially, it goes on to say a crown of beauty instead of ashes, oil of gladness instead of mourning. So Jesus can do it. We need to cooperate with Jesus, especially to the women and children who are suffering from an alcoholic husband or father. Help us out there through Jesus. You just need to claim it, and He can do it.
And find it. So we thank you for joining us, and we do hope you'll join us next week for our next important episode of Her God. Thank you for coming.